Hello everybody, we are back. End of April and we have a big release for you. A lot of our developers, we are between projects right now, so they have been focusing on taking care of some of the maintenance backlog, and you will see the result right here, right now. So first off, let's jump into improvements. First, we have a new API endpoint. It actually allows the deletion of a category, meaning that via APIs, you will now also be able to delete categories. This will, of course, really increase the control that you have when you're using APIs. And you can really customize your document structure without even going into web manuals. Now, note that the deletion can only happen if the category is actually able to be deleted under the normal settings, and if your API user has the access to delete. This means that if the category has documents in them or subcategories, then it will not be able to be deleted and it will be denied. Now, the next one, in print preview, the arrows allowing for expansion of the page structure are now aligned correctly. Before, they would be a little bit off center, and that could create problems, especially for larger documents. And also, I just want to send out a little reminder that you can, of course, always, when you're selecting more pages, hold in Alt and then click your chapter checkboxes to select the entire chapter for print when you're selecting specific pages to print. Another one, our spell checker and dual locale functions now also speak Turkish. So Turkish is now part of the web manuals package. Furthermore, data retrieved with an API will now much better match the sorting that is presented in web manuals. This means that beforehand, what you saw in web manuals would not always be in the same order as you got it in the API. So we have updated the way that it sorts, so it sorts the same way as you see in web manuals, and this allows for a better overview when you're looking at both of your data sources. Another one, we had an issue where users could not have admin or administrator and things like that in their username, and thereby email if they were using email as username. That has now been fixed, and we are just relaxing our username conventions a little bit, allowing for users to have words like that as part of their username. Also, we increased the width of the amendment box. So in managed libraries, when you're there and you're looking through a library not yet released or not yet where the revision is not yet active, you can still go in and look at the amendments. That amendment box has been made a lot wider, and that should allow for a much easier change review. And the last improvement we have for you before we move on to bug fixes is the document API will now also return revision available, document and revision available to and from dates. So the to and from dates, both for document and revision, can now be fetched through the document API as well. Those were all the improvements. We're going to go in and we're going to have a look at bug fixes. Bug fixes! First off, what's highlighted in yellow when searching in the editor will now no longer be highlighted yellow at all times, and thereby also saved with that highlight. We've had this issue quite a few times. We've fixed it over multiple iterations, but now hopefully it's the last one. So your highlighted search words will no longer be saved with that highlight. Also, a big one for some of you, abbreviations can now be replaced in the content mirror module. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means if I'm mirroring content from one document to another, and the abbreviation means something else or should be different in my current document where I have my content mirror module, that abbreviation can now actually be replaced. Beforehand, it would just constantly throw a warning and the outdated flag. And now it won't do that anymore, so abbreviations in general can now be replaced properly. Username and email are now allowed to contain an apostrophe and will be able to sync to Entra AD. It wasn't before. If it had an apostrophe, it wouldn't be synced correctly. That is now fixed. So those of you who are using that should really rejoice. Cross-references to a specific page in a PDF document will now not be immediately flagged as outdated. It was an issue we had. So if you made a cross-reference not only to a PDF document, but to a specific page, and you could do that, especially now with the new PDF reader. So that cross-reference would just always have an outdated functionality, the outdated flag thrown to begin with. That is no longer an issue, so it won't be outdated the instant that you create it. Good things, right? The number for contracted editors and readers should now be correct when you're looking at it as an admin. So that's a good thing as well. And last of the bug fixes, when printing from the reader, the print dialog should now display the correct amount of pages selected and not just one after the browser's back button was used. What we saw here was some users had an issue when they tried to print, they would only be able to see one page. And we tracked and found out it was because the back button had been used somewhere in that history. So now the printing from the reader should actually work correctly and should be able to print all the pages that you needed to print. That was all of the bug fixes. Now we're going to move on and we're going to talk a little bit about in smaller compliance improvements. We have made quite a few changes, smaller changes to the compliance libraries, especially to users maintaining their own compliance libraries, just like we do here at Web Manuals. And the keen viewer might have noticed that I'm in a suit today. That's because we have a webinar. But of course, we needed somebody to represent the trusty Web Manuals hoodie. And for that, we have Joyce.
Thank you, Stefan.
You're welcome. And Joyce, she's actually in our product compliance team, and she's working on these things that we are improving on a daily basis. Or she's working with the features at least. So Joyce, who better to present them than you?
Thank you. So yes, for the compliance library updates, we now have a filter in the manage libraries, allowing data from all visible fields to be filtered. In manage libraries, the list of libraries won't reload and scroll to the top after closing a dialog box, which is really, really helpful. And
I guess that really helps in speeding things up, right?
Absolutely. And the delete button has been moved to the left side of, for higher usability in manage libraries. And we've also rebuilt the library revision dialog, allowing us to have a better view of the current and old revisions.
We really needed a way for people maintaining the revisions of the compliance libraries to not have to move their mouse as much, to not have to scroll as much, and to have the data available right then and there, just like our own team is doing.
Absolutely, and this is also a very helpful update. We've also rebuilt the library revision, like we just talked about. When editing a revision and comparing a new revision to the active revision, it is now possible to mark requirements as editorial changes, and this will assist with internal QA processes.
Yes.
We've also moved a handful of buttons to the left-hand side of the edit compliance view, and this again helps in the QA processes. Moving on to when editing a compliance library, it is now possible to select multiple rows, and then the move buttons can move all the selected rows at once, and this is also super helpful when you have a lot of changes to make in the rows. When updating a regulation, the regulation number will now show up on the dialog box to assist the editor and shows you exactly on which row you're currently editing. And also the row that has been changed will be highlighted in blue, if I'm not wrong. We've also improved the width of the compliance number column to align better for all screen sizes. We've added a full screen button for the edit revision view, and now this box will not only will not close when the editor clicks outside of it like it used to before. So this is also a very helpful update. And lastly, we have a bonus feature now, is that we can apply bold function properly to all content after Chrome browsers received a change that removed bold from certain text cases.
Exactly. So in general, we got an update from Chrome. We not only running Chrome, of course, but that used to be our prime browser. And now after that update, it removed a lot of our bold functionalities. So of course, we have to adhere and make sure that we can show bold whenever we need to. So that should be fixed now as well. Trying to adapt to everything coming from outside.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the end
Yes.
of this session today. So we'll be back with a bang.
Yeah, next month. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for having us. And to the adamant viewer, I promise I'll be in the hoodie next time. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.